So my PhD is humans fold clothes flawlessly. Given any cloth, we know how to fold it instinctively. But what exactly do we know? Like, how do we fold it? Is there some underlying algorithm by which we think for folding clothes? So these are questions that I think most robotics researchers try to solve. I think the best learning happens when you figure out things on your own. So you're trying something and then you find something out, you see some pattern and you're like, oh, is this true? Because you're discovering it. Maybe someone else has discovered it, doesn't matter. But when you discover it on your own, you remember it way longer. There was this professor who said this really nice thing. It is math is not a spectator sport. It is where spectators need to play also. So when you are reading, you are like solving things simultaneously while you are reading. You are thinking of a lot of things. So I think you learn a lot more when you are reading. Curiosity about whatever you are learning, whatever field you are learning. Maybe a science topic, maybe not a science topic. Why is it the way it is? Like, ask as many questions. That is a skill which will never die. So the school system is the way it is. You can't help it. What you can do is, of the 24 hours, you spend only 8 hours in school. What about the rest of your 16 hours? You can shape your life the way you want. I don't know what I would do if I was 14, but I would strongly recommend that person to avoid social media. I don't know if Newton's tree thing was true, but a Cambridge professor told me one of the worst things that Cambridge has advertised is Newton sitting under a tree and getting the idea of gravity. Because he believes that science is never individual, it is always a group effort.
Welcome everyone for this talk, or it initially started off as an idea where Joy would talk to you, but then we said, why not just go through whatever Joy has been through in the last 10 to 15 years of his schooling and then college career. Right now, Joy is an LS PhD student at the Perception and Manipulation Lab at the Institute of Robotics in Barcelona. He is working on developing algorithms for cloth representation and manipulation. The aim is to teach robots how to fold or unfold any given cloth, something that we all do at home, but he's trying to do it with the robots. He's generally is interested in understanding how humans think and believe that robotics is the best place to test these hypotheses. He is a graduate with an MSc in mathematics and BE in mechanical engineering from BITS Pilani, Goa, and he graduated in 2022, just 3 years back. And he's passionate about robotics and mathematics. He's interested in working in robotics, specifically in motion planning, task and motion planning, manipulation, robot learning, and optimization. And he has also interned in Intelligent Systems Lab at TU Berlin. And here he worked on his bachelor's and master's thesis because he did both of them together at BITS Pilani Goa campus. Welcome, Jai.
Thank you for this nice introduction.
Yes.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So, I just explained all of these things, right? Even when I was reading robotics and a PhD in robotics, usually when you think about robotics, you think about application of robots. There are kids sitting here who these schools have started robotics with them. And often you don't really relate these two terms, PhD and robotics together, right? So can you just shed some light on what is PhD, and maybe then take on what you are doing with robotics, and how are you taking your hypothesis forward?
In general, PhD is when you once you finish a PhD, you are considered to be qualified to do research, as per my understanding. So, research is you have a certain set of knowledge, like the world knows a certain set, and you want to know something beyond it. So, figuring out what you don't know and is true about the world is research. Um, so, for robotics, there are two ways of thinking of it, according to me. Like, one is you build, like, you engineer things to make your tasks better, or the other thing which I subscribe to is the science of intelligence. So, humans can do a lot of tasks very easily. So, even if you look at chess, for example, uh, you had Deep Blue, which beat Gary Kasparov, one of the best chess players, long time ago, like 1980s. I don't remember the exact date. And then there was a human moving the pieces. So the hard part was not calculating the best move, which, I mean, according to the machines, the hard part was not calculating the best move, but actually moving the pieces, which we are still yet to solve in robotics. So things that we find as easy are not really easy for robots. And like what we are trying to figure out is how do we actually think. And so my PhD is humans fold clothes flawlessly. Given any cloth, we know how to fold it instinctively. But what exactly do we know? Like how do we fold it? Is there some underlying algorithm by which we think for folding clothes? Or in general, how we think, like any action that we do, is it the most optimal action, or is it what we think is the optimal action? What space do we think in? So these are questions that I think most robotics researchers try to solve. Like how do humans or any other animals think, and can we formalize it?
You did mechanical engineering, mathematics, and now you're doing research in robotics, right? What is it that influenced this decision? At what point did you find that I should do robotics? I know that we started with something called as hobby robotics long back. That was in when you were in seventh standard, which I think it was my first workshop as well. Jay was he was like my guinea pig, to be frank. So he was one of the first people who, rather, Prabodh was one of the first persons who laid trust in me, saying, "Go, Jay, learn." But I think that robotics and this robotics is completely different. What is it that led you to this problem right now, whatever you're solving?
So maybe I can just trace back and connect the dots about how it took place. Um, so in seventh standard, I joined Vidyavriksh, and I was fortunate to meet really good people like Siddharaj, Nitish Wagre, Pranav Vernegar, with whom I had really good discussions. So like Siddharaj taught me math and physics and all these things, and with Nitish sir, there were a lot of general discussions. Pranav Vernegar, he would take robotics classes. So, and we also had this group, Sushrut, Achintya, Avnish, me, and where we built robots, like line followers and things. So, I used to usually just tag along. Sushrut was the guy who knew what he was building, and I would just be like, oh, let's do this, let's put in screws and stuff. I understood nothing then. Later, I at that time I used to like physics a lot. So I used to like physics and math a lot, and then I had this kind of engineering background. So then it was this 11th, 12th where you just study to get into a good college. I got into BITS, and then in BITS I was exploring a lot of things, all sorts of things. I did no robotics in BITS at all. It was doing all these extracurricular things in BITS, having wonderful conversations with people, technical, non-technical, all kinds of things.
So you didn't do robotics at BITS?
I didn't do robotics at BITS at all. It was just curriculum, and at BITS I found math interesting. So until 12th, the math that you learn is mostly applications. The most advanced math is integration, differentiation, but university math is different. in that sense, it's not more complex math. It is just looking at the same math and finding similarities. Like in first, mostly. So there is a structure to math, which I kind of liked. So in 12th standard, I had learned that vector is something that has a direction and magnitude in physics, and then I had functions y equals f of x, and those two things I considered as very vastly different beasts. In BITS, in first year, you have this course called linear algebra, where it's mostly vector algebra. So you find some properties of vectors, that you can add two vectors, you can multiply a scalar, and there are 8 properties which you learn. And then during that course, I realized that those same properties also work for y equals f of x. So they are the same thing. So theorems which are built for this work for these as well. And
the universality of how different topics of mathematics
are related to each other. Exactly. And in math, when you say abstract, you don't care about whether it is a vector or a function. You just say, if an object has these properties, there will be these theorems. And I realized that abstract math is about that. And I was like, let's explore this. And just exploring it, probably in my 4th year, my topology teacher came up and she said, there is this field called topological deep learning.
What is topology? I think most people don't know what topology
is. It's a field in abstract math.
Can you just simplify it for the young ones sitting here?
Yeah, so you have these. Okay, I'll say this one line which my topology teacher said in the first class about point set topology, and it is you talk about closeness without talking about distance. So in Euclidean space, I mean this normal space, you say distance between this point and this point is something. In topology, you have something called open sets. Like it's just a different way of defining things. So you talk about closeness without talking about distance, and that opens up a lot of different fields. It's a complex thing in abstract math. You go high up certain levels and then you get topology. So it's talking about all these spaces without talking about distance, and then you find some similarities, which is pretty good. So in mechanical engineering, I used to like control systems. In mathematics, I liked all these abstract things. And then, what is that field that connects the two? Because so I had these two distinct fields, mechanical engineering and mathematics. And I mean, whenever you look forward, you're like, what is the skill that I have and what can I do with it? So in mechanical, I used to like control systems. In mathematics, I liked all this abstract math, and I was always trying to figure out what is the connection. So again, in control systems, I did an internship with Maurya sir on marine robotics. So that I was figuring out control systems, and I realized, robotics is a good field. And then I wanted to connect abstract math to it. So then I came across this field called topological robotics. And in BITS, there is this interesting thing where you can do your thesis, undergraduate thesis, anywhere in the world if the supervisor agrees.
That's how you ended up at UB.
Yes. So it was pure cold emailing to professors.
What is cold emailing?
Cold emailing is where you say that, hey, I want to work in this field, and I see that you are working in the similar field. Do you want extra hands to do research in it?
At every juncture, what started off as an offshoot of, like in 7th standard, you had to learn math and physics, right? Or physics was not even a thing, math and sciences. And I know I introduced you to physics at that point. But what I saw is whenever these things came up, where there was this robotics workshop, which were very new at the time, you did things which were not expected of a normal student, even back then. And if I connect the dots, if I look at your trajectory, even this TU Berlin is something that you applied by yourself, trying to find out what's new. So what has been your attitude throughout this, like since 7th standard? What have you been looking, like how do you look at approaching this world, right?
So these are things which I did, but it's not like nobody else does it in the world. there will be someone else who is doing it. So you have certain skill sets and you think you want to go somewhere, that goal will change over time. So I want to reach there. What is the best way I can do? So it's all optimizing at that time step. What I want to do, what is the best thing I think I have to do, and whatever opportunities you get. So when Pranav sir came back in 2012, it was just because everyone you were promoting it, and let's try something out, because what else can I do? So I had time, I had this opportunity, I took it.
It is important to note that when we look back, we're just looking at the actions that worked.
Exactly.
But there might be 10 more actions that he might have done which might have not worked. But what is important is to act, is to put in those hours, put in that effort. Sometimes you put it towards a skill without knowing where it will lead you.
Also, one more thing that I would like to add about skill set and learning. I think the best learning happens when you figure out things on your own. So you're trying something and then you find something out, you see some pattern, and you're like, oh, is this true? Because you're discovering it. Maybe someone else has discovered it, doesn't matter. But when you discover it on your own, you remember it way longer. So, I mean, there is this really nice thing in mathematics, probability, called Bayes theorem. And the way I was taught is, this is Bayes theorem, these are the questions, you solve them. I never understood it. I used to just plug in values, I used to get answers. But then one fine day I was watching some random YouTube video, and I don't know, one of these videos where there was a question and I solved it without, I didn't think of Bayes theorem. I was like, this is a question, if I were to solve it, I solve it this way. And then I realized, oh hey, what I used is actually Bayes theorem. So I had rediscovered it in a very logical sense. So then I didn't think of that theorem as an equation, but I had a more intuitive understanding to it. So, and this happens to a lot of people. It happens with everyone actually. So if you spend enough time and in solving, oh, how do I do this from scratch? And you come up with something and it's like, oh, this already exists. And when it doesn't exist, you are adding to the knowledge, and that is called research. Like, you're trying to solve one problem and you get a solution. If nobody else has solved it, then you have figured out a new way of solving it. So you are, exactly.
So those sort of things, like when we go to school, what we are asked to do is regurgitate that same information which is there in the textbook verbatim, right? Like you need to write in the same manner that it's written in the textbook, or you need to just reproduce the knowledge. Do you think that has played a vital role in building you as a thinker? Do you think there is a certain knowledge base that you need to receive in this rote fashion to be able to?
Depends on the subject. I don't know. But for math and science, I was actually lucky to have really good teachers. Like I met Siddharaj. Even my school teachers were pretty nice. In that case, like my teachers never forced me to have a certain flow. Like, you have to write it in a mathematical sense. Like, even in BITS, I used to just write English for answers. If the logic is correct, they used to usually accept the answers. And I think logic is way more important than what you exactly write over there. So if your logic is, you should, the way I did it is I used to figure out, oh, what exactly are we doing over here? And then write it however you want. So you need to, when you write, you need to, your thought has to be passed on. Whether you write it in A or B, it doesn't really matter.
And I think this is a skill set that is so crucial that it has landed you places, like it has made you go to different places as well, right? Like this TU Berlin, you had to write and express it in a manner that person accepts it.
Yes, and I still need to improve that skill set.
Yeah, and that tells that you are still not done.
Yes.
You need to keep improving, and he's also on a continuum. It's not like we are always on a continuum. We are never done. Yeah, all those parents or all those adults who tell you study till 10th standard, there is nothing after that. Study till 12th standard, there is nothing after that. It's all a lie. You are always on a journey, right? And his journey is not over. We are just making him pause and asking him, how did you get here? That's all.
So academically, I'm minus 3 years old because academic journey starts when you finish your PhD.
Oh, academic journey starts when you finish
Research
it.
journey starts when you finish your
So we are not even born yet. So you mentioned all the people you mentioned, like teachers, friends. This is all your social circle, culture, whatever. It seems that you have spoken to a lot of people. You have interacted. Things have happened at BITS, maybe in the mess hall, or walking down from the classroom to the hostel, and a lot of these conversations lead you to new places. But there is another place that where you can gain more knowledge from, more insight from, is reading. Uh, how has your reading journey been?
I'm not a really good reader.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, reading, I think whenever for learning new things, I think reading was the best source of learning because when someone tells you that person is going at a certain pace, like listening to lectures and so on. But when you read, you think, you pause, you're like, oh, what if it was this, what if it was that, and you try to experiment. And there was this professor who said this really nice thing. It is math is not a spectator sport. It is where spectators need to play also. So when you are reading, you are like solving things uh, simultaneously while you are reading. You are thinking of a lot of things. So I think you learn a lot more when you are reading, and this is super important. I think now what I am noticing in myself is my reading abilities have gone down since ChatGPT.
What?
My reading abilities have gone down since ChatGPT.
So reading abilities have gone down due to ChatGPT. What do you mean?
I mean, we are getting a lot of free information. We ask our question and we get the answer immediately. But when you read a textbook, you try figuring out an answer and you understand that theory better usually because you think a lot. And if ChatGPT does the thinking for you, I feel that you think lesser and you get a lesser understanding about.
Do you think we should ban internet for kids?
No,
No. Okay. So how
it
do
is
you
it
go
is
about
it is useful, but you need to. I don't know. I don't have a very bold opinion about what you should do, but you need to have certain time where you just do deep work and try to learn something new on your own from books.
What is deep work?
Oh, where you completely focus on one thing because I know that my attention span has gone down. I'm figuring out ways how I can get it back up.
So, as a teacher, I would want to ask you right now. You know my curriculum, like in my classes, I don't really subscribe to any curriculum, or I just go by the topic, and maybe if I feel that the child understands, we just explore that topic, right? I don't really have a set thing in the classroom that I run. Um, should I subscribe to certain curriculum or certain ways of doing things, or should I do something differently in today's world? Because you've gotten exposed to multiple people from multiple parts of the world. Should I, as a teacher, do something differently?
I I haven't been at that stage, so I can't really answer that question. But what I have experienced is, so Siddharaj's classes were actually really useful, and I have attended a lot of classes of Siddharaj while his student and even after being a student. And what I liked about his classes was it gives you the freedom to think about how do I do this? What exactly is this? So there was this interesting class in Joggers Park, which
Yeah, the outdoor class.
the outdoor class, where he took his students out there and he said, okay, pick any object and tell me its area and perimeter. And then the kids go out and then they are measuring something and the perimeter is this, the area is this. And then you take a 3D object, like a slide. What is the perimeter of a slide? Can you measure a perimeter for a 3D object? Like these are questions when you struggle for 40 minutes and then you think, oh, maybe you cannot define a perimeter for a 3D object, and so on. I think this is where learning happens a lot. Regarding subscribing to textbooks, I don't think it's really, I mean, it's a personal choice. Like I know, so in university when you have like these huge professors who publish a lot of research, they're like, oh, we are not going to subscribe to a book because book is already outdated. We'll teach you about what is the latest research.
So they don't subscribe to the latest textbooks or whatever, which is what you've gone through in India.
Yes. So there are some professors who subscribe to books. There are some professors who don't subscribe to books. Even in BITS, there were a few professors who didn't subscribe to books.
And how does that work? So they do their own research, they study on their own and say, okay, let me show you what's the latest thing in the...
Yeah, so you know what you are supposed to teach. So as long as you cover all those topics, it need not be from a given book, because then when you subscribe to book, you're saying that, oh, I am teaching whatever author A thinks. But there are author A, author B, author C, author D who have written on the same topic. And you have an understanding about that topic. So you could either say, oh, I'm going to teach whatever author A thinks or author B thinks. Or you can say that, oh, I have read author A, author B, author C, author D. I have developed a certain opinion and I'm going to teach my opinion. So what I'm saying is, it's you should aim to develop a view of a certain thing rather than, okay, this guy has thought of this, so it must be correct. Maybe he's wrong, you don't know.
Yeah. And maybe I should also incorporate this in my practice, where, you know, what we have done as an education system is we have tried to ask them to make sure you do write exactly what is there in the textbook. If you don't write what is in the textbook, we will not consider you worthy enough, which I think at some point diminishes their self-worth and gives more precedence to the curriculum, and they and the curriculum become different.
There's this book, Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman, somewhere here. There's a nice anecdote from there. It seems when Feynman had gone to Brazil, so Brazil has a really good science education. So when he went to Brazil, he asked a person, if there is a bucket of water and I put something in there, will it appear closer or farther away? That person could not answer. But if that question was framed in a more textbook form, if light passes from lighter medium to a denser medium, what happens to it? He could answer it immediately. But the application of it was not clear. So now this is school level, very fundamental things. So that person gets 100 out of 100 in a science question where and can clearly solve any complex problem about then lighter medium, denser medium, what happens to the light, but does not have an understanding about if there is something in water, will it appear closer or farther away? Then is that the education you want? Or
And that brings me to a very different question actually, and it just comes right now. I have this thing, we do this thing called computer programming, teaching kids programming. It's the in thing. There was White Hat Junior that came in between. And you know, everybody wanted to become a coder. And I started teaching Python for a bit, right? Now that computer science is also like 20 years back, it was at a dormant stage where new languages were being developed. Now it is the it's like a jungle, right? There's so many languages, so many platforms, so many new things coming about. Where does our computer science education start? Where do you think it should start? For? or with what should it start?
I don't have a degree in computer science, but what my understanding of computer science is mathematics that is computable. Languages is a way you communicate with the computer. So it really doesn't matter what language you use. Just use one language, you can communicate with the computer. That's great. Doesn't matter what language it is. Now, I think that understanding the nature fundamentally is super important, like maybe mathematics, science, and all these things. Programming is useful, and you should learn one language so that you can experiment with things which, depending on which field you are in. So it may be necessary, it may not be necessary, but it's always useful to know a language because you can then understand what the other person is talking about. So if you just know English, you have people, you can only communicate with people speaking English. If you know Spanish, you can communicate with more people. You know Konkani, you can communicate with more people, and so on. So similarly, I think for
computers, you need to learn their language for whichever region they come from. Like whatever. What I meant to say is the capabilities, or whatever are their capabilities.
If I want to try out something with...
When did you do your first language? When did you learn it?
When Pranav sir taught it in 9th standard.
That was Arduino IDE?
No, I think that was C.
C was your first language. Yes. Although he says he doesn't have a degree in computer science, he uses a lot of coding.
Yeah, so coding, this is something which a Cambridge professor said to me when I went for a summer school. Computer science education teaches you to be a football coach. That does not mean you are a good football player. So coding is playing the sport, and computer science is
Coaching.
The theory behind it.
But at this point, if you still have questions, please say it out in the mic so that it gets recorded as well. Yeah? Yeah, I'll get the mic to you.
See, Jay, when you are doing your graduation in BITS, I saw your project, which was miniature Formula One car. It was done by a team. Of course, you were not the only person. And that time, was there interest in the engine part of it, automation part of it, or basic of robotics? Which led you later to, what was your forte at that particular time when you were in college? And if robotics was not a forte or main interest, when did you turn, change or graduate from there to robotics?
Right. So at that time, I was not doing robotics at all. So that was a pure mechanical thing. I got into robotics much later in my 4th year when I explored it through mathematics. I wanted to... control systems was what I liked in mechanical engineering, abstract math. I liked all of abstract math. So what is that field which connects the two? And I found some people who worked on the intersection. And I emailed a few people. One of them replied, yes, I have a position. And after working with him, that is when I moved into robotics. In fact, I was also trying robotics before with Maurya sir, where I was thinking, what can be applications of control systems? So I wanted to add mathematics to it and just figure out what people are doing. Exploring things is how I ended up what I'm doing, and it will, I'm still exploring, so I will end up somewhere else 10 years from now.
Hi, Mr. Jay. I would like to know what is the future of robotics as a career for students like these young ones? Because if everything is going to get automated in the end, will humans really be needed into robotics after that?
I don't know what is going to be the future. Nobody can answer this question. What I can just say what worked for me. I didn't know I'm going to do robotics. In fact, in BITS, I never did robotics. I somehow stumbled into robotics again in my 4th year. So what I would suggest is whatever opportunities you have right now, just try to learn the most out of it, and you will be able to connect the dots looking back.
Yeah, so I just want to bring this. This is a very important question. He talked about specifically with robotics. But do you think there are certain qualities, skill sets which are non-negotiable to maneuver into today's world with AI coming into play? What are those skills that one should seek as a student, as a human, to survive in the times to come?
Curiosity. Yes, asking good questions about whatever you are learning, whatever field you are learning. Maybe a science topic, maybe not a science topic. Why is it the way it is? Like, ask as many questions. That is a skill which will never die. The coding things, they may die. Maybe AI can code better than, I don't know.
Anything can happen.
Yeah, but your curiosity will never.
So the curiosity will lead you to the next big step in your life.
The current education system is quite rote-based education system, wherein they expect students to just ratta mar, okay, and certain things like by heart the poem, write down the poem like 5 times, 6 times over and over again till it gets set into their head. So I would like to know the school that you studied in. I don't know which school. So did it allow certain things like this, or did it allow you to let your creativity blossom? How was it?
Yes and no. So the school system is the way it is. You can't help it. What you can do is, of the 24 hours, you spend only 8 hours in school. What about the rest of your 16 hours? You can shape your life the way you want. So if in school you are supposed to do that, do it. Maybe you will increase your memory. That is a skill you are developing in school. The other part, you can develop other skills. What you can't change, don't change. Like, if you can improve yourself in other ways, do it.
How important is it to have a teacher when you can do it yourself or use the internet?
I like the conversations that we are having right now, right? If I was a computer, can you... I mean, what I'm sharing right now is what I think about the world. What you are sharing right now is what you think about the world. I don't know if you can have such conversations even with ChatGPT as of today. And I mean, you don't know whether what ChatGPT says is correct or not also.
You know, we watch a lot of science fiction. Science fiction for the kids is something which you know, you see a movie which you have not happened today, but something of future. If you look at some of these books where the stories by Jules Verne in 18th century, he could imagine sending a rocket to moon, you know. So is it important to build your fiction stuff in your head right from the childhood? Does it help anyway? What have you ever had fictional thoughts before when you were doing robotics that we start imagining immediately that my brain will have chips outside, maybe I will have an ultrasonic behind my head which will get connected to my own brain, and I start processing the additional sensors. These kind of thoughts do come to your head, and how do you ignore them or you try to pursue a little bit? What is your thought about that?
Me personally, I've watched very few movies. So I've not watched a lot of science fiction movies, and motivation for me has never been science fiction per se. So for me, it was, oh, I found something interesting. I went, oh, what are other people doing here? This is interesting. So just followed my interest to wherever it leads me. So if you like watching movies and thinking, why not? But if you don't watch movies, will you not get into robotics? Absolutely not. I mean, that's not true. Yeah, maybe. I have not watched a lot of science fiction movies at all.
So I have a question over here. If you were 14 again, what will you do? What will you start learning?
If I were 14 again, I would learn whatever my friends are doing and what I find interesting. I mean, I cannot. It depends a lot on who you are around and what others are doing. I think you should always chase opportunities wherever they come from. I don't know. I want to add something to this. I don't know what I would do if I was 14, but I would strongly recommend that person to avoid social media.
That's very important. It's like the takeover.
we are thinking only about academics.
Yeah.
There are some things, which add, and which, there may be mathematics involved in that also, in that creativity, which we don't know.
Also another thing is I don't know much about art, but science is very collaborative. You never get an idea just sitting somewhere. So I don't know if Newton's tree thing was true, but a Cambridge professor told me one of the worst things that Cambridge has advertised is Newton sitting under a tree and getting the idea of gravity, because he believes that science is never individual, it is always a group effort. So something you should always try to do is see how you can collaborate, have a friend circle where you build something new and things. Like collaboration is a very important skill which I am even trying to hone right now for science.
Distinguish between computerization, automation, and robotics for students to understand what are these three different terms, and from the career or further learning angle.
Automation is usually an industrial term where you have a certain sequence of actions which are taking place. So you're building a car, the same parts connecting to with each other and so on, and you automate that part. So if a human was involved, you take the human action out and put a machine which does the exact same thing, where there is no thinking, it's just manual labor which is replaced. So when I think of robotics, I think of more on an autonomous side rather than automation. So instead of repeating the same task over and over again, I'm thinking in terms of, I have a new problem, how do I solve it? And the science of intelligence approach. So like, is there a science to intelligence? How does it think? What exactly is learning? Is it just looking at data and extrapolating? And even like as humans, when we extrapolate, if I know, I've never tested, if I push this bottle, what will happen? I've never tested with this bottle and this table, but I know what is going to happen. Even a kid without knowing any laws of physics knows what is going to happen. He has not learned gravity, but he knows what is going to happen. Now that is because he has seen a lot of data about what happens and figured out a mental model about what is going to happen. So when I do robotics research, or when I think of robotics, it is, can we give this kind of knowledge to robots? Is it possible? I don't know.
Let's say you solve your problem. It's not necessarily you should answer, but just general opinion. Let's say you solve this problem of folding, right? Folding the clothes or whatever. Currently that problem, that activity is being done by human beings, right? Eventually the robots will start doing that work, right? What do you think from your perspective? Those people will definitely lose the jobs perhaps. And so how do you have a dilemma about that in your mind? That's my question.
Jobs always change. So before Excel sheet came, people would do things on like write down tables, and then when Excel sheets came, you could handle much bigger problems. So even in this case, you can, if you have robots to fold clothes, you can, instead of employing people to do those tasks, you can employ those same people to do something else. In fact, even now, maybe there are robots to fold clothes. Like you can automate things. You don't need something which thinks how to fold clothes. But what I'm trying to, like, my PhD is not about, if I can fold clothes. It's about understanding how we think about clothes and finding some patterns. Are there some patterns? We don't know. So it's a way more philosophical question that I'm looking at. And maybe whatever I come across, figure out over here, maybe it's not used for folding clothes, but for something else as well. So
You think a systematic way of teaching the same way as you are teaching, I'm not saying change the way of making a systematic is better if you were to learn, or just pass on to like whatever comes to your at that day what the kids want to learn. Is that better?
with Siddharaj, I think he prefers the way where whatever kids want to learn, he's going to talk about, and I think that helps a lot. I think a mixture is good, but I prefer a freestyle. So if I were to learn refraction, like the same problem where I cited Feynman, if I were to learn refraction, I would learn it in a much better way if I put a tub and I say, okay, if I put something in there, will it appear closer or farther away? And then I say, oh, it appears closer. Why does it appear closer? And then I learn refraction. I will learn it much better. So this is not really freestyle. So then there is this question: do you want to cover portion or do you want to learn things in the best way possible? And a system, when you say different textbooks are written in different way. So the school teachers subscribe to a certain textbook, so they teach in a certain way. If person B writes the same thing, he will have a different index. So chapter 1 will be different from, like, the way chapters are distributed, and even the subsections will be different for different.
Chalo, thank you very much.